Kapusta. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathleen Kapusta, and I'm a licensed independent social worker in the state of Ohio. And to Lisa's question, I learned first about affirmations many decades ago, early in my career, when I had the opportunity to work at the Veterans Administration for the Cleveland area. And one of our psychiatrists on the unit was using affirmations as a tool with some of our veteran population in the mental health unit. And while it was not an easy thing to do, it was an effective thing. So that's what really geared me into it. This presentation today, we were going to focus on enhancing the well-being of you during these most difficult times. Affirmations and how to incorporate them in your life are what we're going to explore. And then I'm going to encourage you to use some personal and develop some personal affirmations, which can then be a tool for yourself. I don't know about you, but I really like gifts. So I want to start out with a gift. I want to thank you for the gift of your valuable time this morning. We have so many competing things for our time, and you've chosen to be here this morning with us. So thank you for that. Hopefully, my gift to you will be giving you an enhanced perspective on ways to maximize your life and to move forward. When we talk about affirmations, we have to take a step back first and talk about self-care. We are so used to in our life extending ourselves to others, taking care of others, whether it's your role as a parent or your employment role or whatever. Please remember that when we look today, we are focusing on how we can take care of ourselves. You can go to the first slide. Thank you. I believe that when we extend ourselves to others, we really have the ability to become stronger for ourselves as well, but we need to start from a point of strength. In our lives today, as Lisa said, more so than ever before with the times of the pandemic, we need activities like this. Surely we want to believe we're moving towards seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, but I think these affirmations can help us navigate whatever path and time might be left for us. I'd like to begin by building on the topic of Elaine Stipetich, which was what I think in my mind controls my life. And for those of you who are with us, you can maybe reflect back on that. For those who are not, please feel free to go to the TLC website where you can view this recording. It's a perfect segue into what we're talking about today, because if you believe like I do that you are what you think, then life is truly guided by your thoughts. This is a great starting point for us, and in many situations, we can rely totally on our thoughts, but sometimes it's just not enough. Sometimes we need to translate these thoughts into words and eventually into our actions so we can manifest what our intentions are. What I propose to do today is to help you get through this process by using affirmations as your tool for self-empowerment. Affirmations defined. Thank you for the slide. First, affirmations are not that complex. They're simple, positive statements. They should be short. You don't need to do anything long, although you can if that's what you choose. There's no rules as to length, but short, simple statements are good. Declarative statements, they should be in the present tense, something about what is happening now, because that's when you're going to be reading them or thinking about them for yourself. And of course, they should be optimistic in tone. That's always an important thing. Affirmations purify our thoughts. What this means is they provide some clarity. Sometimes in the busyness of life, we're overtaken by so many things, and it's good to take a moment to just step back. I use this personally in really tense situations. Part of my career was in healthcare, and before I walked into a room of a patient newly diagnosed with a terminal illness or a family struggling with at that time, before advanced directives, whether they should turn the respirator off for their loved one or not, I found that taking a moment to clarify and purify my own thoughts helped me be more effective with my client base. Another is restructuring brain dynamics. Now, I've read a little bit about this, but there is proof in the literature that you can actually kind of move your brain in a more positive direction just by taking a moment of self-affirmation. Creating a focus, what is possible in our lives. And again, as we get so enmeshed in the day-to-day activities going on, we sometimes fail to look at this. And finally, an affirmation, and looking at its definition, is something that can provide us with strength in our lives. It helps us to believe in ourselves and the potential for what we can do, not only for ourselves, but for others. Next slide, please. Why do we need affirmations? You might think, hey, we've gotten through life this long without them. Why do we need them now? I think there are a lot of benefits of them. First of all, many of us in our lives are victims of a negative thought. And I'm going to say that some of our self-talk, you've probably heard the phrase stinking thinking. And we do this to ourselves. I don't always believe it's intentional. I believe it's rarely intentional, but we do this. We just kind of think, I can't do that. How am I going to do this? I've got so much on my plate today. Where am I going to finish everything? We're leaving for the trip tomorrow. Here's my to-do list, 4 pages long. And we just kind of are self-defeating. So we do need them because we want to get out of this self-victimization, if I can call it that. The other thing is, for many of us, it's an unfortunate reality of the human experience that we have a lot of sources of negativity, this negative thought, that go beyond ourselves. And it could start at a young age. Maybe it's the parents who says to the child who has broken a glass or spilled their milk on the floor at a very young age, "You're a bad boy, you're a bad girl." I doubt that we, as that parent, want to say that. I think we want to say, that's a bad thing you did, or, that's an accident. How can we not do that again? But in the moment, as parents, especially if you're parents of multiple little people, it's not always the easy thing to do. So it's more common that we might say something that is negative and not self-affirming to that child. Could be a careless teacher, a teacher who is in the midst of a lot going on, trying to incorporate the lesson plan to deal with behavioral issues that may be experienced by the children. And that teacher may say to that child, "You're stupid," when you can't answer that question. I remember this very vividly when I was in about 5th or 6th grade, coming home and saying, my mother reminds me of this, coming home and saying to my mom, "Mom, I don't think all boys are stupid." And she says, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, the teacher says they're stupid, and it's usually the boys." Well, I think probably they were experiencing some learning disabilities and issues that back in our generation weren't readily identified. So that's going to start to be integrated into a person if they hear that enough times. Could be an unthinking coach. We know that, I believe firmly, that people go into coaching because they have a love for the sport, that they want to enhance the young people who are going into the field, or the athletes that are in the field, but yet in the midst of the drive to win, being discouraged by maybe what the play was on the field or on the court. Sometimes we know, and maybe you've experienced it yourself if you've been an athlete, where we have an unthinking coach who says things that are negative to us. A hurtful friend can do that, or somebody who is really not your friend, an enemy, certainly can do that. So they're harmful and they're recurring, and that's where they become problematic. If we get too much of this negative feedback in our life, I always look at the two pots, the positive and the negative. If the negative is building up and the positive isn't, kind of like a balance scale, it's going to go down. So what we're trying to talk about today is being able to create more of an equity between the positives and the negatives in our life. And we can do that for ourselves through affirmations. I'm going to go so far as to say that I can believe that it's somewhat of an antidote. And if there could be a possible antidote to all the negativity in our life, I do believe it might be affirmations. Now, affirmations can cause problems for some of us if they are incongruent with messages that we've received repeatedly through our life. So if we've been told we're bad, we've been told we're stupid, that we don't know what we're doing, and now you're going to try to insert some affirmations into your life, you may actually have a tug of war going on emotionally because you've been kind of raised and geared, socialized to believe one way, and now you see these more positive things coming in. So sometimes it's painful at the beginning. It really is, because people are saying, "Oh, this can't possibly be me. How can I be a bright, shining person, when I've been told for so long that I am not?" So it's important to realize that there can be some inner struggles if you try to begin the affirmation process. But are they needed? I think they are, and hopefully you'll be able to concur with that as we go on. Next slide, please. How do affirmations work? Told you they're thought purifiers. It's like the cleaning fluid of your soul. You go and clean your house. Well, we're going to try to clean some of our thought processes and some of our perceptions of ourself. It creates a focus because remember I said to you earlier, your affirmations are I and me statements. Again, how much in our daily life as whatever our role may be, as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a clinician, as whatever, how often do we focus on ourselves? Not as much. We're usually giving out to others. So this is creating a focus on yourself. When you do that, it provides you with strength because you're going to be feeding the positivity, which is not normally what we do. Also, it's a method of self-improvement. You're going to be redefining yourself. You heard me say that for some of us. Now, some of you may be far along this path already. You may be doing affirmations, and that's good. And hopefully this will just confirm what you've been doing. But for those of us who maybe have not, it can definitely be the start of another path for self-improvement. I always say we want to spend time in all aspects of our life. We want to spend time with our health, with our diet, with our exercise, and certainly with our internal self and our thought processes. And that's what we would be doing with this. So you want to make yourself a better, stronger person. It is a tool, and there is how it becomes a tool for self-empowerment. You're going to create the new and improved you that I've referenced earlier. Next slide. Thank you. Tips on how to use affirmations. Now, this is what I have found successful. It may not be the route you choose to take, but I'm going to tell you why I think some of these things are important, and this might be a good way to start it. Write them down. So people are now saying, first of all, this lady's telling me that I should say, I'm a good, wonderful person. Now I have to write this down. A little bit out of the norm for most of us, I would think. We rarely think these things about ourselves, much less write them down. And I'm suggesting to you that writing them down is significant. Why? Think about the process. And when I say writing, my kids would laugh because they say, Mom, tell them computers, So whether you want to keyboard it, whether you want to write it, I'm talking about the physical act of putting something down, using the muscles in your hands to write, to keyboard, the physical act of doing that, and then the created product. You're going to see this in front of you now. So you're not just thinking an affirmation, you're visibly using your energy to put it down in front of you. What does it do? I don't know about you, but for me, when I want to remember something, notes all over, I write it down. That's what you want to do. You want to remember your affirmations. So why would you skip this important step of writing them down? Now, how you write them down or where is your choice. As I say, for some of you, it might be the computer. For me, I'm still a longhand writer, so that's what I do. When I write them down, now what are you going to do? You're going to write them down and then put it in your trash basket or put it under your pile of to-dos on your desk? No, you want to keep them visible when you write them down. I have suggested to some people sticky notes, little sticky notes. I'm sitting right now in front of a desk area in our home here, and I have a blank wall, and I could put those sticky notes on that wall. Now, when I put them there, you continue to keep them. Let that pattern grow for yourself. So maybe today I put 1 or 2, and then tomorrow another 2, and before I know it, I have several dozen. And that, again, is going to be reminders. So I didn't just write it once and forget about it. It's there as a continual reminder and reference for me. For others, it might be your cell phone. If you put your notes in your cell phone, not a bad place. As long as you don't erase it, keep it there so you'll have it again as a reference point for yourself. I am still old school and carry a planner like many of us carried in our careers for many years. I carry a planner, and so on the various days, I will put at least 1 and sometimes several affirmations. So again, not only does it help me that day, but as I look back for points of reference in my planner, I have it there again. So the writing down, the physical act of writing it down and keeping it someplace where you can reference it, very important. using them daily. If you walk away or leave today's presentation and it's not for you, that's certainly your right. If you think it is for you or you want to give it a try and see if it's a viable tool for you, then what you need to do is do it daily. So in the morning, you get up, you brush your teeth, you do your daily routine. This becomes a part of your day for you. I usually recommend the morning because then it's fresh in your mind and it's kind of like the guiding tools for you throughout the day. If the morning is an impossibility for you, I mean, do it when it's best. Is it a mid-afternoon when you're having a cup of tea, or is it going to be the evening before you sit down for a reading or watching television or whatever? You need to choose a time. But I think that morning just kind of sets the tone for the day, and that's why I tend to do it then. But I will tell you, if it's a hectic morning and we're rushing out of the house for this or that, then I'm not going to say, oh, well, I missed the morning, I'm not going to do it. No, I'll do it at a time that's appropriate throughout the day. But you hear daily. And again, you'll see it's not an onerous task. It doesn't take you hours of time. So I think we all deserve that gift of time for ourselves in that minute or two that it might take to do this. When you write this out, I'm going to take you, so I've now got you in the physical act of writing or typing it out. I've got you putting it in a place where you're going to remember it and be able to see it. And now I'm going to ask you for one more thing. I'm going to ask you to repeat it, and preferably repeat it out loud. So you're using them daily, and to say this out loud. When you say it, don't just say, I'm a good person. If that's what you write, you're going to say, I am a good person. You see the difference in the inflection, the difference in the assertiveness with which you say it, because that's going to help you by saying that, by writing it, by saying it, it's going to help you to internalize that. So I am a good person. You're speaking slowly, you're speaking confidently, and you're going to hopefully believe yourself because it certainly sounds more believable that way. Repeat it as needed. So throughout the day, whenever you get those negative messages to you that stinking thinking or people tearing you down and not acknowledging you for where you are, you can counter that. If you can remember or bring forward a new affirmation at that time, doesn't have to be the one you wrote that morning. It's just more the process that can be of assistance to you. And I guarantee at some point in time, you will begin to internalize these things. And I felt for a long time that people read us as factors of how we read ourselves too. So if we're reading ourselves with positivity and with assuredness, I think that message is going to start to translate to those who are in our sphere that day. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're going to talk about some examples of affirmation. I would ask you at this point in time, if you can get in front of you either a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, if you can also get, or a computer, if that's what you want to write on, fine. But we're going to go through some examples, and then we're going to have you do an exercise with this. So if you could be prepared for that, that would be good. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, sometimes people will say to me, oh, Kathleen, I don't have enough time. I'm so busy and, I'm raising a family and I'm doing this and I'm, doing volunteer activities and so forth, maybe caring for a spouse with health issues. Affirmations don't have to be, you're not writing a novel. I'm not asking you to, give me your life story. One word. And sometimes people will say, well, I can't even think of the words. Well, we all learn the alphabet pretty early on. So that's what this slide does. This slide basically is showing you they just took the alphabet and found words. And maybe you'll say, well, just today I'm only going to do an A word. That's fine. Start with an A word, then go on forward, and you're building on it. So by the end of the alphabet, you have a tool of words that hopefully have defined you. Did you think that you're an awesome person? Well, hopefully you do, because if you do, that may lead to others believing you are. You're a bright person. You have charm in your life. Are you delightful? Do you encourage others? I have to believe that we encourage others on a daily basis, and probably a lot of times don't give ourselves credit for that and the impact it may have had on another. And that goes along with friendly. You're somebody that people can approach. You're generous with your time, with your talents, helpful. And helpful is so interesting because there's so many ways. Sometimes people will say, well, my physical status is changing and I can't really go out and cut the lawn for my neighbor or help them bring in their newspaper or whatever. I'm sure many of you during this time of the pandemic have sought a rollout of being helpful merely by phone calls. When we couldn't and weren't really seeing people in person, one of the things I did in my community where I had previously worked with our senior residents was I asked for the list of all of our residents, 55 plus public documents. You can get it, names and phone numbers. And then I began calling them, and I would try at least a handful a day. Helpful. It made me feel better about myself, affirming my role of being a helper, and hopefully it helped the person on the other end. So there's many aspects to that. Intelligent, jovial, funny, kind, loving, magnificent. How many of us think of ourselves as magnificent? And yet I'm sure that each of you has magnificent qualities that is listening this morning. Nurturing, again, I think so many of us do this, and outstanding, phenomenal. Gentlemen in the audience, please, queen to be respected. The K could be king to be respected. I don't want anybody to feel that they've not been acknowledged in this. A treasure, splendid treasure, understanding, virtuous, wise, X chromosome for the gentleman. Again, we can do the Y chromosome instead of youthful, and zealous, and then some. If you would go to the next slide, please. You can see here that the next slide is pretty much a repetition. Some of the words are actually the same, a few are different, but it just shows another way of taking that alphabet and simply coming up with words that you have to believe in your heart are words that describe you. And can you see why this might be difficult for some of us? Because we don't think of ourselves in these ways. We don't acknowledge ourselves a lot of times. We don't applaud ourselves. We almost feel like, oh, geez, I can't do that. I don't want to seem boastful. Well, we want to believe these things about ourselves, and we need to express these things ourselves. And that's what we do with our affirmations. Next slide, please. This one is an example of, right now there's a big push, and there has been for several years, about art, doing the pencil art. And sometimes you'll even buy those books and they'll have the area that you can color in. And I've done that myself on a number of times because I like to do the colored pencil work. But it's like, okay, so I got this thing of colored pencil. And then I thought, oh, that blank space in the middle would be a perfect place to put an affirmation. And that's what this slide is depicting. And as I told you, we looked at affirmations on the previous page that were one word basically. Here's a little bit longer one. I am love. I am purpose. I was made with divine intention. I think those are powerful words. Those are words that would hopefully encourage a person to feel positively about themselves. And hopefully when we feel positively about ourselves, we extend that and carry that out into the lives of those we meet during the day. But just a few words on paper, I think very powerful words. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, I am in charge of how I feel today. Today I am choosing happiness. Do we want to choose sadness? I hope not. I don't think that's what we want. But how many of us actually say this when we begin our day or at some point in our day? I'm in charge. I'm in charge of how I feel. I'm not in charge of everything that happens in my life or that happens to our loved ones. We all recognize that, but we are in charge of how we feel about these things. And we are in charge of choosing happiness if we want, if that's important to us. And again, I would like to believe that most of us would feel that that's important and that we want to create as positive and as happy a sphere around ourselves as we can. So again, I told you little sticky notes, but if you got some affirmations that you really think are good and they're powerful and you want to keep them, why not do it a little bit nicer? And that's what they did here, a little bit more permanent in nature. Next slide, please. I love this one, very simple. but they went and framed it even. This felt so good to them. And sometimes it takes a little while, you to get used to writing the affirmations, but then you'll start to say, oh, that's a good one. I really like that one. Apparently that's what happened here. I can do all the things. I can do all the things. Next slide, please. I like this. I'm going to make you proud. Note to self. I'm going to make you so proud. A note to self. You don't have to put the note to self, but that's essentially what we're doing. We're writing these things to ourselves about ourselves. Again, kind of a unique perspective, but it does work. Next slide, please. This is one of my favorites. You're going to hear me say it again. I am enough. Do we really ever think that about ourselves? I can tell you, human nature, I think we think, I didn't clean the house like I wanted to. I remember things from grocery shopping. I didn't call that friend I wanted to. We always kind of berate ourselves or kind of belittle ourselves for what we didn't do. Wouldn't it be nice if we can say, I am enough? Does enough mean we're looking at ourselves as perfect? Of course not. But we are enough. Next slide, please. I would suggest that at this point, if you'd like, to either do a screenshot or maybe take a picture with your phone if you are interested in some books about affirmations. We've just opened the can this morning, and there's a lot more inside of it, a lot more that you can delve into. I know that several times when I've used this even with clients in my practice, they've said, you've given me a good start, I need to know more. And especially if you're prone to being a reader and you like reading, this is just a short list of some of the books that I have referenced over time. I Can Do It. How to use affirmations to change. We talked about from the very beginning that this can change, this can empower our lives. Positive affirmations, I told you they've got to be positive. They've got to be daily. And I like this for attracting health, healing, happiness into your life. Isn't that what we're all about and all trying to go towards? And then I love that 1,000 positive affirmations. So for the client who says to me, I can't think of what to write, that's a good book to give because we can use that in our lives. Shine On, Empowering Affirmations of Extraordinary Women. A lot of time, my practice has a lot been with elderly, and in reality, many of my clients, the majority of my clients tend to be women, and women going through the loss of spouse or partners and things. So that's been a very, very helpful one. And then the most powerful book of affirmations ever written. I'm not sure if it is or not, but I like the title. So it's a good one as well. So next slide, please. Okay. All right, then we'll wait for this. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to ask that you take a few minutes, and the exercises that, as I told you earlier, I prepared you for it, that you would please write down 1, 2, 3, as many affirmations about yourself as you would like. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. And while you're doing that, I am going to read some to you. So maybe this will give you some food for thought too. I'm enthusiastic about meeting strangers and do so boldly. I am self-reliant. So you be writing yours as you're thinking of this. I live in the present with confidence towards the future. I see the good in others and in every situation. You hear the repetition of the I or the me statements. And in the present, I approve of and love myself. I have integrity. I am reliable and do what I promise. I am proud of myself. I enjoy exercising my body. With every exhalation, I release stress from my body. I sleep peacefully and soundly. I am energized by feeling calm and relaxed. I release the past and live in the present moment. I am grateful for this moment, and I see and find the joy within it. I am blessed to have a wonderful family and sphere of friends. I embrace the rhythm of life and let it unfold. I focus on actions to create the life I want. I know my intuition will always lead me in the best direction. I adore my quirks because they make me unique. I can be anything I put my mind to. I am the architect of my life. I build its foundation and choose its contents. My ability to conquer my challenges is limitless. My potential to succeed is infinite. And lastly, my obstacles are moving out of my way. My path is carved towards greatness. All right. Can we ask Elisa if any of our participants have any that they would like to share, any of their affirmations? Putting them
Or
in
if
the
anybody either wants to type in their affirmations, they can, or they can raise their hand, and then Maureen on the back end can unmute them so they can share it. As people are thinking about if they want to share, why don't I ask you a question first, and that way if they would like to type it in, they can. So let me ask you, Kathleen, why are affirmations difficult for so many of us? Why do we have a hard time sticking to this or even starting this?
I think starting it is because it's foreign to many of us. As I had said earlier, we tend to talk about others and what we can do for others. We don't focus as much on ourselves, what we can do for ourselves. And this is really causing us to focus on ourselves, and it's causing us to make statements about ourselves that maybe we haven't had told to us a lot of times. Remember, I said we too often are the object of negativity, of people saying negative comments to us, and we start to internalize those. So when we need to think of an affirmation, it's difficult, and sometimes it's actually uncomfortable for us. As far as getting started with it, I think we have to, it's like anything. How about getting started with that new exercise program or that new diet? You know, it's a change for us, and once we say, hey, I'm going to give it a try, I do believe that we'll find we have success.
That's great. Thank you. I think Espy wrote in, I like who I am. So thank you for that. Does anyone else have anyone they'd like to add? Would you like to raise your hand if you'd like to share with us something that you thought of? Lucille, do you have any? Yep, let's take Lou off the mic. Oh, there she goes. I choose to be content. I act on my kind thoughts. I am grateful and I see the positive in people. That's fabulous.
I would say from that, Lucille, you've been doing this a bit because you had some very good points there.
Thank you.
I had a while where I was on the stroke unit back in the day when, unfortunately, stroke was very, very prevalent and not able to be treated as well. And we also did use affirmations. Some of our clients couldn't speak, some of our patients, if there was any aphasia, any expressive aphasia. So we would speak for them, and we would say things like this because we believed as a team that it was part of the healing process. It's not just the physical, but it was the emotional, and the affirmations could assist with that. So thank you for that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kathleen, do you have any other thoughts on affirmations, and perhaps, again, maybe reminding us what time of day to do this and how to get started?
Okay. First of all, I want you to own them. If you know, give it a try and own them. So you make the pattern that works for you. But the recommendations, as I say, are one, writing it or physically putting it down because of the process of doing that and having it there to be visible for you at the beginning of the day, because that's the start of how we set the tone for the day, and that's important. The other thing is, if you can keep it with you, again, in your phone, in your daytime or whatever, so when the craziness of the day hits upon you, or that car just cuts you off when you're going around in the roundabouts, you know, and you want to scream, and because it's the third car this morning, you have that to just recenter. That's a lot of what it's about, recentering. Now, I will tell you this, as positive as I am about affirmations, I cannot guarantee that they're going to work for everyone. It's just like when you hear the latest, greatest diet fad or exercise approach doesn't work for everyone. No. But I can guarantee you that if you work and commit yourself to these affirmations and give it time to become an ingrained part of your life, that they're going to be a powerful tool in your arsenal of self-care approaches. So powerful that I think you're going to want to share them with others. Like I'm grateful for the opportunity to do today, with families, with friends, with others that come across your life. And I think you're going to say to yourself, why wasn't I doing this sooner? Because you're going to see it does make a difference. And it's just minutes, it's moments of a day that it takes to do this. It's not like I'm telling you to read 40 pages of a book. So that's why it's important too. And I think how it will change your life, though, is like most things in our life, it's really entirely up to us, isn't it? So if you want to experience what I believe can be greater joy, a greater sense of peace, just a general overall well-being, it can be as straightforward as putting these affirmations down with pen or pencil on a piece of paper. But you got to believe them then, folks. And that part is that transition from writing to believing is somewhat more problematic for many of us. So don't get discouraged. Don't think, oh, geez, I just can't do this. It doesn't make sense. I'm not believing. You got to keep repeating it. You have to keep repeating it. And when you can verbally affirm your dreams, your ambitions, somehow you get empowered. You get empowered with a deeper sense of reassurance and confidence in yourself, and your wishful words that you have in your mind that you've said or written down will become your reality. And I would ask just to leave you with one final affirmation, and you heard me say that I was going to repeat it, because if I could only say one thing in a day, if I would only have one affirmation that I would repeat and that I would encourage you to embrace, is I am enough. I am enough, and believe that, because in my short time with TLC, and I'm grateful for that time that you all afforded me and your support, I think this really speaks to the people whose lives have crossed mine in this short period of time with TLC. So thank you for your time and your attention.
Well, I think we've learned a lot of tools to get through this moment and through this week and through this month and through this year, and hopefully for the rest of our lifetime. So Kathleen, thank you for this new tool. Again, TLC, thank you, family, right? Thank you for bringing this all to us and helping to empower us to become better people, be better neighbors, right? Better friends, better family members. So amazing. Again, once again, TLC, thank you for bringing this to us. Kathleen, you have a great gift. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Bonnie, did you want to talk a little bit about TLC?
Sure. Just for a quick minute, this is just a slide that shows you about TLC. We're a volunteer group of approximately 24 volunteers, and we do this kind of presentation. We do training, support groups, and one-on-one counseling. And we have a great website, so please check it out, because you can find videos of past presentations, you can find lots of resources, and all our professional services are free. And we also gratefully appreciate donations to help us continue to bring our services to the community. So thank you for being here today, and we will have one of these presentations coming up each month, so watch the website for the titles, and we'll be happy to see you at every time we can. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing all of your affirmations and insights. We're all getting smarter by working together. Again, my name is Lisa Honka, and I have a company called Your Key to Senior Living Options. I help people find resources in the area. I know this has been hard for people, being at home, and TLC has really helped us with coping with being isolated, and hopefully we'll be able to get out and see each other soon. Again, I'm a free resource, so if anybody has any questions about senior living or, again, support in your home or support in the area, don't hesitate to call. And again, thank you so much for your presentation today, Kathleen. We've learned a lot, and I hope everybody has a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, TLC family. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.